Oh, there she is. Yay.
It just wouldn't let me log on.
Oh, wow. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
We have some people already here, and I want to quickly introduce Suki and just shut up and listen because she has such a wealth of knowledge. She'll tell you how long she's lived in Oaxaca and why it's a great place to consider. So thank you, Suki, for joining us, and you have the floor.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I apologize for the technical difficulties. So the first thing you should know about moving abroad in Mexico, it's Mexico time. So you don't start getting annoyed until about 30 minutes later. Then you're like, what's going on? But anything between the first 30 minutes, everyone still considers themselves to be on time.
So good. I should be in Mexico there.
So I just wanted to understand how this works. So will people be asking questions in the chat or just wanted to get a general sense of the format?
They'll be asking questions, but I want you to just start in with the overview because as you go over things, that'll generate the questions. And I think you see the questions as well as I.
I think so. It says private chat, so I'm going to assume that
that's it.
I'll be able to see it. All right. Yeah. So we'll get started. So I'll talk a little bit. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about just traveling and relocating in general before getting specifically into Oaxaca. Because, traveling and deciding to relocate is very much about who you are and your tolerance level for something that's different. And more importantly, your why. Because your why, it's very exciting to go someplace and, relocate and live. But your why is actually what keeps you there a year, 2, 3 years down the road. And I think also being very realistic about what it means. If you're thinking to yourself, I'll never step foot back in the US or something along those lines, that's probably not true. And then you're going to end up being disappointed. So even when you go abroad and you live abroad, you travel abroad, whichever, you always want to have your, kind of, if I have to go back for a short period plan as part of your plan, because you've got family, things are going to happen, and you just want to consider that. So with respect to Oaxaca specifically, and Deborah, you and I were talking earlier today, I think we have, at least right now, a very different personality as a group from other places. So we're a small group. We're probably one of the smallest groups of Black expats from the different places that have Black expats. And even while we're here, we're kind of introvert, extrovert type people, so we're all doing something and we're all doing kind of our own thing. And we meet up and it's very purposeful meetups. So we'll say, let's have a meetup on Saturday. We're actually going to Oaxaca this Saturday coming up, and we're doing a yacht trip. And this is something that's been planned for about a month. So we're doing a Juneteenth Father's Day celebration, together. So we're coming from different parts of Oaxaca to do that. So we tend to do things like that. But Oaxaca is almost like, if you think of college, like independent study, it's that place where there are museums and galleries, lots of art. It's a very artsy type place. You'll just be walking down the street and they're always open, or at least they're starting to open up now. They were closed for COVID and they're all free. And you just walk in. It's never a thing about, do you need an appointment, anything like that. And we, my family and I, we ended up doing this last Saturday. We went to go eat at an art festival that they were having. Right across the street was the gallery. We walked in and we probably spent another half an hour looking at the different paintings from the different people. It was a lot of anxiety for me because I was with my 7-year-old too. And all I, like, oh, please, don't touch anything, stay in the middle, so he's near stuff. And I'm, so I enjoyed it, but I'm going to have to go back by myself because half the time I'm looking at him thinking, if he touches anything and it breaks, I'm going to have to act like I don't know him because I see some of the prices on this stuff. He's on his own, I can't support him on this. But that's kind of what Oaxaca is. So the way the city is set up, everything is centered around El Centro. So El Centro is what it sounds like, which is kind of the center of the city. And then and when people talk to you about places where they live, they tend to live north of Centro. And that's typically where you're going to find your expats. So north of Centro tends to be one of the more expensive places of Oaxaca. And it's going to be the place that looks probably more like the United States than anything else. What that means for you is it starts costing a little bit more, like United States as well. So in the north, it's very nice streets, very quiet. I would say the drawback, and I've lived in a few different places in Oaxaca at this point. While it's beautiful and it's nice, the drawback for me is it's walkable, but it's not like I like to purposely walk, so I like to walk to the supermarket and walk to the barber shop and walk to, every day I'm walking, right? I don't keep beans in my house because there's a place 2 blocks away that has them bulk. So whenever I need them, I just go get exactly what I need. So my closet's not full of stuff because I just kind of tend to shop almost on a 1 to 2 day. That's kind of how I think. It's like, oh, for the next couple of days, this is how I tend to shop. And so for me, being able to walk to the different places without catching a cab is pretty important. Oaxaca, obviously because of COVID, everything kind of slowed down. So now that people are coming back, today a trip that normally takes me in a cab maybe 10 minutes took me 20 because so many people are coming back to town. Oh. So that for me really made the walkability, even more important because I do not want to sit in a taxi for, 20 minutes just to get someplace. I'd really rather be closer. When you are getting closer to Centro, there are a few things that happen. So this morning, there's a celebration every day in Mexico. So at least here in Oaxaca. So I don't even wake up when the cannons go off anymore because it's the background. So this morning it was 5:30 and I did hear it. So it was like, it's a big boom. So at first you're like, is there a war? Because it's like a cannon. I'm not sure what they're firing, but it's not even fireworks because everyone hears it. And, 5:36. So depending on, and they celebrate everything, every saint, if your block happens to be named after a saint, that block absolutely will celebrate that saint on that day. So it's a combination of cannons and fireworks. Then there are the major, holidays. Today's celebration was a celebration of actually a tragic event that happened in 2006. There was a pretty big protest with teachers. They took over Zocalo for about 3 months. And I guess at some point, the police decided that they needed to clear people out. So it was a big deal. People got hurt. And actually Oaxaca at the time got rid of their police force when that happened because they were, so that's the thing about Oaxaca too. It's a little bit, it has a reputation, well-deserved, for being one of the most I don't want to say politically active, but they don't play a lot of games with the whole authorities, police. They're not really about that. They will march in a minute. So I'm on an app that's called Bloque that basically tells you where the different protests are going on. So the protests are almost a way of life, here. Someone's always protesting about something and they'll come down from the mountains and the villages. And it's peaceful, everyone's walking and, that kind of thing, but they're very serious about it and they'll shut down major roads for the protests. And there's never a situation like police don't interfere. No one interferes. Basically, you just have to wait for the protest to be over. A few times the protesters will have some demands. So teachers actually protest a decent amount here. And their protests are centered around what's being taught in schools. So there is an active argument about moving the kids toward technology and learning English, because from the teachers' perspectives here, they're not teaching the kids what they need to know to be good villagers, right? What you need to know in terms of working the land and what have you. And they feel like they're infringing on them culturally. So from time to time, the teachers will go and protest. And, that's that when you see, it doesn't happen often. It happened once this year. And then I think once a few years ago. When they're really serious, they will shut down the airport. And then, they're very easy, and they just stand, they're just there. And then basically the governor has to come down and he's got to give in to whatever their demands are. And then everybody goes home, but it's something that goes on often. So it's something that you should know that, Oaxaca is absolutely known for. Just, the rights of people and, protecting that. And if they feel like it's infringed in any way, they don't play that game. Then there are the different villages. They also have their own forces. So depending on the kind of village you live in, I can't remember, I think it's Ayana. She lives in Huayapam, and Huayapam is its own municipality where everything is communal land. So what that means is if you buy something in Huayapam, you will be called to service. At some point, because you're a member of the village, because they have to agree to let you buy, you might find yourself one year running the store, the local store. That's just what it is.
So if you buy land or house there, then
yeah, if you buy a house there. So if you rent, it's not a big deal. Yeah, but if you buy a house there, get ready. And they're not crazy. They're not going to make you like the head of the police force. If you're older. But like my husband, he's already told me like we would never do that because he'd be the head of the police force in a minute, and he's like he doesn't have time to be head of the police force. So he's like, this is a no.
It's your turn to head of the police force. So I'm glad you said police. So I understand it's very low crime.
Yes, it's very low crime. I've not seen any crime. I mean, I do pay attention. So I read the newspaper, and I'm on there's a thing called notices. So anytime something happens, usually there's a car accident. And actually I have to say here, despite, the driving, there's not really a high rate there's always planes passing by me, closing my door. There's not a high rate of passing from car accidents because it's not a thing where you can't drive fast, not with the number of speed bumps. And they call them, so speed bumps are topes, and then baches is, it's like you start speaking different languages, you forget the English word. Baches are potholes, that's what they are. Okay. So you're not driving fast, between the potholes and the speed bumps, it's just not a thing. So by the time the accident happened, it's because someone cut someone off and then they're there in the street. So I get notices of that. But like regular petty street crime, I've not seen it. When you hear about it, it's the same story every time. I can read you the story clockwork. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I was drinking and I was walking down Central by myself. And oh my gosh, these people came and robbed me. I'm like, just take a cab. Like, it's just not that much, right? Like, you went to the bar.
What are you doing late at night, walking down the street after you've been drinking by yourself?
Yeah, like what happened there, and then they're like, watch out, people. I'm like, okay, but you watch out. Like, what happened? It's not like this is a surprise. You could be in the States, right? And you're walking down the street. Like, if there's not other people on the street, I'm not on the street. That's my basic rule of thumb. Right? What am I doing out there by myself? So that is when you'll hear that a crime happened. And, I want to say it's civil, but it's not like, so no one kills anyone or anything like that. So it's usually a very give me your stuff type of deal. And, I always say here, would you like the PIN number as well? I mean, what do you need? Right? Because I'm not fighting with you over, some papers or things like that. So like I said, I've never seen it happen, though I will say there was one time I was in Benito Juarez. So it's in Mercado, Benito Juarez, it's in the middle of Central. It's like the tourist space. I broke my own rules. So my general rule whenever I'm so I try not to do the you're such an obvious tourist. Now, of course, they look at me and they know you were not born here. Right? So it's not like I'm walking around and I'm not blending, but I at least try to not act like I'm made of money or anything. Yeah. But on this particular day, I had meetings all day, like, meetings with people in America. And I had the whole thing on. I had the suit, I had my heels, but I really needed this tea from the shaman, and I was like, I've got to get it today. It's on my list. I'm going to do it. I usually go back into the jeans and sneakers. I did not do this time. So I go into the market And these, I tell you what happened only because it was like an after the fact. So, and then I broke rule number 2. I was wearing my open purse. So like all my stuff is just open. And usually I'm always with a zip purse, but again, I just ran out of the house. So these 2 women, like older women, like 45, 50. And I say older because I'm like 45, right? But they were like these short older women, and they come like real close to me, but honestly, I'm not thinking anything. They come up to my arm practically. I mean, they're like these really short older women. And, there's nothing happening in my head. So I start hearing people yelling, "Oh, you stop that." Da, da, da. So I start looking around because I'm like, oh, something's happening here. Where's the action, right? So the action is me. So they were running a scam. One of the women was trying to reach into my purse. And I guess the goal was the other one was supposed to, I guess distract me. And really I was distracted for real, focused on my shaman. But I just didn't even see this happening. So I do look, when I start seeing the people yelling, and I do see her with her hand in my purse. Now my purse, that purse anyway, the stuff is all the way at the bottom. So she honestly wasn't getting anything because we had a problem with height difference. So it just wasn't going to work. So she should have really checked that. It was just a bad idea.
No, I love that she didn't get away with it because the onlookers were like,
oh man, people came out from their stalls, kids. I mean, like all these people are yelling, "What are you doing? Get your hand out of her purse. You stop that." So they both start to go and run. So I go to the booth that I'm supposed to go to. And I'm like, and they're like, "Oh, you okay? You're all right. You're fine." And I was like, "No, I'm good. My stuff was at the bottom. I have everything. She didn't get anything. We're good." The guy's like, "You stay right here. I'm going to go see if I can find her." So now I'm like, whoa, I don't even want you to find her. You know what I'm saying? Like,
let her go. She didn't get anything.
I was like, please let her go, because I don't know what that means. We're going to find her and do what exactly? So then I start thinking, man, I hope she got away, because I'm not going to be responsible for whatever might have happened to this woman. But I was really gratified, though, because I'm a stranger, right? I don't know these people. Yeah. I definitely was running I'm a tourist there, and they were personally incensed that this was happening. Like they were really.
They don't want this to happen in their community.
No, and they shut that down. Like they shut it down, and they didn't find her. And I was kind of like, yay, because
Yeah. How long have you been living there?
I've been here. It's going to be 10 months now. So 10 months in Oaxaca City, 2 months in Puerto Escondido. And as I think I talked about in the other one, I've done several countries for 6 months at a time. So several countries around Central America mostly. This is my first South America.
Okay.
So I knew better.
Okay.
And I've lived. So when I talk to you about the safety, I'm actually talking to you from the standpoint of comparison, because I have lived places, like in Panama, where home invasions was real. People absolutely did, knock on people's doors, and I never understood it. Like, why you try to rob somebody while they're home? That always boggles my mind. But home invasions was a problem there. I lived in Medellin, Colombia, where they have an expression, "Don't give papaya," and basically that just means their whole concept is it's your fault if you get robbed or what have you. And it was so intense, you're having to take care of yourself secure-wise, that even when you were in a taxi, the taxi drivers would tell you keep your window up, because someone might reach
Colombia.
Yeah, this was in Medellin, Colombia. Yeah, so it was definitely more intense there when it came. So when I'm here in Oaxaca and I'm talking about safety, like I know the places and I've been the places where it doesn't matter if your purse is zipped up or not. So you may absolutely, come up to you and say, they want like your stuff. So Oaxaca, absolutely. It's part of the reason we decided to stay. And we're going to be here at least for the next 5 years, because, when I walk down the street, I don't have to have my husband with me. And while I'm generally good about the whole don't look too touristy, I do not compromise myself in terms of my rings and, jewelry and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't have to mute myself for fear.
Yeah,
of.
I remember corporate America had to teach me when we first, as investors, when we first went to New York, and they was like, "Okay, don't wear all the jewelry you own,"
Mhm.
which Americans, Texans tend to do, the diamond
Yes.
earrings, and it's like, no,
Oh yeah,
keep
no, you
it
definitely don't
in
want to do that
person
either.
until you're in the building. Yeah. So
Exactly. And I lived in New York, so I knew the drill. Somebody asks you for your time, you walk away quickly because they probably
yeah,
want your watch.
yeah.
So yeah, so I knew all of this stuff, and
Hmm.
I don't have to be my New York self here.
Yeah.
And honestly, I never wanted to move anywhere where I have to do that. So I mean, we did it in Colombia, and Medellin, don't get me wrong, is a beautiful city, so clean, so nice. But I had to go back to being kind of the New York. You're
Hmm.
always looking, seeing is someone coming down, or are they looking at you in a certain way, and
Hmm.
I didn't leave to be back in that. For me, it's about being mentally free.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
here, yeah, and even, so I say, so my rule is not exactly night. It's kind of a dark thing. Right now, it doesn't get dark until almost 9.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and
Nice.
everyone is out, and it does change. So like in
Mhm.
December, it was about 6:30.
Okay.
So I'm like a dark. It's like dark is my thing.
Mhm.
I'm in when the sun sets, or I take a cab. Sun sets, I take a cab. That's my rule. So yesterday we did come back home. I think it was 8:30, and we did walk it. I mean, me and everyone else, we were all on. Everybody was on the streets. So there's certain places where you live where there are just always people out. So it's a little bit of a different rule than if you're someplace where there's no one out on the street. So I think that kind of matters. We talked climate. Part of the reason, again, I'm in, Oaxaca is the climate is a thing. I have lived in the hot, you've got to be in 1 o'clock places. I can't really do, and I probably can, I just choose not to. I'm not really interested in doing the whole air conditioning 4 or 5 hours a day thing. I want to keep my door open. I want to hear the birds. I want to hear the sounds of, minus the airplanes, but I want to hear the sounds and everything. So I have an air conditioner. I'm one of the few people who do. I've never used it. I've got a fan for
Must be nice.
yeah, and I run warm. So I'm the kind of person, my house in North Carolina, I kept it at 80. So I'm somebody who can handle a little heat, but I found that beach places it was just too humid. And then the heat on top of it, it made you feel like weights. You wanted to go to the store and shop. You did. But you thought about going out there, and you just knew you'd pass out 5 minutes in, and you just weren't going to do that. So here, the supermarket, some of the supermarkets, one of them I go to is a 15-minute walk. I do the walk, and it's a great walk. It's very peaceful, it's calm, it's just a nice little breeze. When the sun starts beaming, it's me and my umbrella, and that's it. So that's part of the reason we came. The other thing that I'm not a big fan of is all the different bugs. When you start
Oh,
talking to beach towns, and I don't want to say there are no bugs here, because so the bugs that really get me are the mosquitoes. They love
yes.
me. I'm a buffet, right? They are not
That's
here.
why I'm trying to get out of Texas for the
Oh man, it's
mosquitoes.
unbelievable. Like I went to Grenada, and my arms, my legs, it didn't matter what I wore all day long. The mosquitoes were coming for me, and I
Mhm.
couldn't stay. So we ended up leaving early because I just didn't even look right. My arms were just bumpy all day long.
Wow.
So they don't have, I mean, I'm not saying there's not a mosquito inside there. I've seen a few, but nothing like I've seen, at the beaches. So mosquitoes is actually a big problem for me. So I can't be any place where there are a lot of mosquitoes. The major bugs here, I would say, are beetles, and this is like beetle. So they're like a version of the cicadas here, and this is the season where they're basically dying all over the world. So they're doing
Yes.
that here. So they are on, I see them. They're on the street. They're on their backs,
Mhm.
and I guess eventually they'll go. They do have, and I'm from the north, so I know down south they like to call them palmetto bugs, and water bugs and all kinds of fun names.
Yeah.
But where I'm from, they're called roaches,
Yes.
and so
Yeah.
they don't.
They're called
Yeah,
roaches in Texas too.
okay, they're just called roaches. So I don't see them. They don't. So I don't know exactly where they live. Obviously, they go through the water and in drains. So everyone in their house, when you walk into your house and you're ever looking at a house, you're always going to see these white covers underneath the drains. And that's so that nothing comes up into your house. So first of all, never take off the white. Yeah, don't ever take off the white cover because you'll have an unfriendly visitor. But white cover stays on, you don't see. So I've seen maybe 4 while I've been here, the whole time. So there's not a bug problem, which is good because it's just not, that's not my thing. I can't, I'm not here to do that. I didn't come all the way to Oaxaca to do that. What else about Oaxaca? So we have the stuff, right? The Walmart, the Sam's Club.
Okay.
I've not been to McDonald's in 20 years, but there is one, and apparently it's quite popular. I always see lines on there. It's probably because it's only one, here. So they have all of the, so if you want to, especially near the Liverpool area, I always say that's like the United States area. All the things that you're probably used to seeing are there. I was walking down there the other day. It was like 4 Chinese stores, Chinese buffet and everything, so if you're feeling like you're fixed, they have it. Oaxaca, I will say, gets my vote for the food choices. Because again, I have been places where it's very, very traditional food. And then some Americans have come by and opened hamburger places. And then that's it. That's what you're dealing with. I don't eat meat. So that wasn't doing anything for me. So it was just the traditional food. But here, I have, on Tuesdays, I like to go to the Moroccan place. I love the Indian restaurant. There's a few of them, but I love Monica's in particular. So she gets my vote. Indian, Thai, sushi, just anything that and obviously tons of Italian. And then of course, traditional Mexican. And here what they do is they have something called moles, and they do a lot of different moles. So moles is like a sauce. So my father's coming to visit and I know he's going to love Oaxaca because he's a sauce guy. You can give him a bowl of sauce and bread. And he's good, right? That's his whole day. And they've got nothing but the moles here. You can go from the really high end, like Oaxaca, Casa Oaxaca is like your really high end, you get really just nice 5-star restaurant. I probably spend when I go there $20 a person when I do that. And they do the whole thing, pull out your seat and your different knives and your forks, and they put the fire on your food.
All that $20.
I mean, you are a star when you walk into Casa Oaxaca. I did the most expensive meal I paid for here was a 9-course meal that's done by a chef that's from Mexico City. It's not invitation only, but you have to reserve several days in advance. He does not tell you the price. I know now why. Until, after you get there, but you can tell him what, the different things are that you like. And then, they make it for you right on the space. It's a 4-hour 9-course meal. So it's a whole thing. They bring it over to you and they explain to you what every dish is. I knew it was going to be expensive when they started talking.
They start doing all that.
They started being like, oh, and we made this out of this and that. And I kept looking at my husband. I was like, there's no menu here. He said, are we supposed to know? This is the game plan. Are we washing dishes? And this thing ends. So that actually ended up being our most expensive meal. I think we ended up paying $50 a person for it. So I was a little put out because I was like, man, that's $50. But, I'm not going to knock him. If I had gone anywhere else to do a 9-course meal and folks putting fire and all kinds of stuff on my food, I'm not paying $50. So I wasn't going to be completely,
would be a couple hundred in the US. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, I can get with that. We're in rainy season right now. And our rainy season, how big?
The size.
Size. I actually don't know. I mean, I know there are a few 100,000 people.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I mean, I know there's a few 100,000 people. So it's a city. There's the movie theaters and the malls. If you felt like you wanted to live that world, you don't have to live the Oaxaca cultural world. I tend to lean toward the cultural part. So I go to, I do Tetzamecao ceremonies with the shaman, and he throws, food and stuff over my head, and we get rid of the spirits and stuff. So, I do that kind of thing, and I'll eat the moles, and I love my tejates. It's like, I don't even know what they make it out of, but
Okay.
they call it, I have no clue. They call it the drink of the gods.
Oh, okay.
And I have generally had low iron count, so I will take iron supplements for it. And because sometimes I get tired, but the Tejante must be very high in iron because I don't have to take my supplements when I go do the Tejate. But it's only done on the street and it's only done by the villagers. So I made the mistake once of watching the woman make it. I'll never do it again. It is not a sanitary process. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Girls, and I was like, ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, I won't watch this happen anymore. I'll eat it, I'll drink it, but I gotta do after the fact. I have to be in blissful ignorance on how this whole thing happened because I'm not sure what protocols we're following here, but they are none. And they're everywhere. It's like 20 pesos, so I'll just be walking by. So I probably have one a day, and I have like my guy at the corner that I go to. I love that they fix everything. I've got my shoe repair person, my person who repairs the clothes across the street. She already knows me. If I don't even worry anymore about stuff not fitting. I will buy it. And then like I came down with a bunch of stuff from Goodwill when I came down here, and she fitted everything for me. And we got everything nice and tight. Stuff that was too long got shorter. My son, I buy him pants that are too big, and she knows the drill. I buy the pants, we go down there, she does a little thing for me, and then I'm like, all right, I'll be back in a couple months. You already know we're gonna have to take this out because he's gonna be taller, and we're gonna have to fix the thing at the bottom, and that's what we do. So it's a really, preserving. So they don't have Goodwill kind of thing out here. You have to find people to give stuff to because they repair their stuff. It's not something, it's not a throwaway type culture.
Yeah, when they're done with it, it's ready for the trash.
Yeah. They don't really do that, at all. So I found I'm not compromised here at all in terms of things I can't find or get. Certain things that are specifically made in the States, like certain vitamins, like vitamin supplements.
Yes.
I haven't been able to ship them to myself here. So basically I have to go to Denver for my residency in July, and I'm going with an empty suitcase. And I'm going to buy all the vitamins that I can't get here because I get very specific vitamins. I get whole food vitamins, not because you can get the regular stuff, right? Vitamin C, A, you can get all of that. But they're the chemical composition of it, and I get the whole food version. So that's what I can't get shipped to myself here.
Okay,
the pharmacies here,
because our group is seniors, and so are there pharmacies and
there's a pharmacy on every corner, and you barely need a prescription for anything. I mean, barely. If you know the name, they'll give it to you. There is no such, you don't even have to go to the doctor. Like if you have a prescription from the States and they have the name, they'll just refill it for you. So you can pick up antibiotics if you feel like it. There's just not it's just not like that. They're never going to look at your prescription and be like, oh, you've gotten 10, or you just get it and you pay for it and that's it. And it's really cheap. My daughter needed antibiotics only because she wanted. Sometimes she's a little hypochondriac. She had a little fall. It was nothing. Her hand was fine. She's like, oh my God. I was like, all right, let's go to the hospital. I don't want to do this thing with you. Yeah. So, and it was like 8:00, and I know her, she was like, well, let's wait a few hours. And I'm like, I'm not going to the hospital at midnight. So we're going now. Either we're going or we're not. Because if I go to sleep, I am not waking up. So she's 25. So she lives here in Oaxaca too.
Okay.
So we go to the hospital, and the doctor's like, it looks fine. You just scraped your hand. She was like, well, she was looking at us like, why are you here? And I was looking at her like,
I'm here because she's complaining.
I'm here, yeah, because she needed to feel this. So all right, let's do it. It's fine. So they were good. It's a private hospital. So there are a few private hospitals here, all over, kind of. So I just went to the private hospital. There was no one there, so they saw us immediately. We fawned over her hand for a solid half hour because there really was nothing there. And it cost $30.
Oh, wow. Good.
That was the cost of the visit. Then we went down to the pharmacy to go get the antibiotics, and that was $4. Okay. And it was enough for a week. Okay. So she didn't even really, use it, but it was just in case like there was an infection or what have you. So the cost of your general care, it's really cheap. I go, in the States, the only time my son went to the doctor, he broke his arm, and I was like, all right, we got to go. I can't fix this. Yeah. But anything else, I'm like, that deductible is something serious. So we
Yeah.
need to be okay. Here we sniffle, I go. The visit is $25. I visit my doctor once a month. Sometimes we just talk, she asks me how I'm feeling. So she's a naturopath doctor as well as a medical doctor.
Yeah.
So she, so we talk about the whole thing. How's the iron? She recommends different foods for me, to eat, to supplement, that kind of thing. So we even talk about my skin. I started getting some dry skin patches and I was like, look, I don't need my skin. She's like, her husband's a dermatologist. So she's like, oh, you gotta come in here. And we're all looking. I'm like, what do we do? Anything that happens. She's like my person. I'm like, I wasn't sleeping, what can we do? So any ailment I even think about, I'm in complete preventative mode now.
Yes, I am too. And most of us, we're in maintain mode, at our age. We want to make sure that most of us, we get our Social Security, and then some of us have retirement, and we're at all level, social, economic level. But a major concern for our age group is quality health care, dental care, pharmacies, ease of getting about. Nice to know there's a Walmart and a Sam's. Is there a Costco? Oh, Costco girl.
So I don't even know. I happen to see the Sam's Club because I don't even go I don't go there at all.
Okay.
So I was kind of, so I saw Walmart because I was going to the movies.
Okay.
And I was like, oh. And so there are 3 of them. I just don't ever go to Walmart, but it's here physically. And the hospital thing is actually very important to me too. That's one of the first things I always look up when I go someplace, because I need to know, if something happens, can we do this quickly? And most of the doctors, especially the private hospitals, they'll do some kind of residency in the States, so they will speak English. And even if they don't, they're quick to pull out the Google Translate. So my dentist does not speak English. And it's okay, but we had a little snafu the last time because she's like, she's very committed to your teeth being white, and she was like, we got to do this. She kept rattling all these things to me. And I'm like, oh, that seems like a lot of stuff. I went to the dentist before I came here. They didn't say all this, and she was like, no, don't worry, da-da-da. So I wanted to ask her about like what type of resin she was using and all of that. She just kept talking. I was like, all right, just do it. We'll work it out after. So fortunately I came back and the resin was good. That's good because she had put it all in my teeth. But it was only, I would say it was like $50. So wow. I was like, well, I'm committed if you're committed. You want my teeth to look good. I want Denzel's teeth. So let's make this thing happen. I actually need to have a wisdom tooth removed probably pretty soon. It's not bad right now, but I'm going to have it done. But I don't, I don't worry because I see all the different doctors. A lot of them have private practices. You're being able to afford the $25 for an hour makes you a really great private patient. So they're not, they go home at 3, 4 o'clock. They're not working 12-hour shifts. They're not exhausted. They're not unhappy. They're not rushing you out of the room. And there's not there's not a nurse taking an intake and really talking to you, and then the doctor coming for 15 minutes. Like the doctor is the one talking to you.
Wow. Oh my God. And not rushing you unless the insurance company says he has to see so many patients in a day.
You've got to be like, oh, you know what? I have an appointment. So it's great, but I gotta go now. I'm good.
That's unheard of in the States.
You have to be the one.
You're telling the doctor, I got some place to go.
We spend enough time. They will do all the diagnostic tests. At one point, probably about 4 months ago, I was getting some really bad headaches, and I just, I couldn't identify a source for it. So she sent all the lab work for me. So it turned out actually that I needed glasses. So I was straining my eyes so much all day without the glasses that it was causing the headache. So when I got the glasses, the headaches actually went away. But we went through all this testing to figure, and we were going all the way. I was talking MRI. She was like, whoa, slow your roll. We don't have to go all the way to DEFCON 3. Yes. Let's rule out, bacteria. So she checked everything. She checked to see aneurysm. She checked my blood rate to make sure the flow was going. So we really went through all different causes. She didn't jump to like migraine or diagnosing me with something or another. So the medical is really important. I have my kids here too, so that's absolutely vital. And interesting, I was surprised that even the private hospital, like they didn't ask me for the money first. So we did all the stuff, and all I'm thinking the whole time is, I guess I look like I can pay, but like, what happens between the two of us if I tell you, oh man, I have no idea how does this work?
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna try
it.
Yeah, so I wasn't gonna try it because that's not nice. But I was like, I was like, oh, so you want me to pay now? They're like, no, we have to make sure you're okay. And I was like, oh, okay,
wow,
thank you, but definitely a different attitude when it comes to, just the quality of care. They actually do talk and listen to you, and they're not attached to the pharmaceutical companies in any way, shape, or form here. Yeah. They're totally separate entities. So they have no incentive to write you a prescription for prescription's sake. By the time you get it, it's okay, this is something that you actually need. And then they want you to come back to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to. I think the other thing you'd wanted to talk about, I guess, was the community.
Yes.
A little bit the community and just us here. So like I mentioned, we run the gambit of ages in Oaxaca, and we're small, right? So we have families, and then we have a lot of nomads, not necessarily digital nomads. I guess probably half of them are digital nomads. And I think I only know of a few retirees here, because you don't know about Oaxaca unless somebody happens to tell you, right? That's just not a thing. So Oaxaca does not advertise itself in that way. There aren't, ads or what have you. So we're like a secret, we joke. Last time we had a meeting last week, we were like, I think Tulum, or was it Playa, said they're the Mecca. And we said, we're Wakanda, But when you get here, you're like, oh, okay. And, you start looking at the math and how you can live and just the way the people are. The one thing about Oaxacans is that they have traditionally been, for lack of a better description, the Black people of Oaxaca. Black people of Mexico, I should say.
Okay.
They have always held on to their culture. Most of them are Zapotecs. They're not Mayan. But they still keep their Zapotec language, so they will speak Spanish and Zapotec. And for a very long time, they were put down by the rest of Mexico as being backwards, holding on too much to their culture and that kind of thing. So they were seen. So it was almost a curse word at one point to say, "Oh, you're acting like a Oaxacan." So because of that, there is almost a solidarity. So there is no looking down on, like, that kind of thing just doesn't happen here, because they come from a place where they were looked down on and they still held their heads up high and they held on to their culture with pride. So they are not the ones that will kind of run that whole classist thing on you. I've seen the whole class thing play out from time to time. It will typically be someone who's relocated from Mexico City. I saw this just recently. It was about 2 weeks ago, at the place where I'm renting, where the guy kept referring to the woman who cleans as the girl. And I'm like, the girl's got to have a name, right? So I know her name now. So I asked her name because she's not the girl. She's working and she's like everybody else. Yeah. But you could hear how he was talking to her, like he felt, like he was, higher than her in a way. Yeah. I didn't like that, obviously. So I will not, obviously I don't do stuff like that. Yeah. So I have seen
a lot of that.
But you don't. That was actually the first time. It's very rare to see. Most of the time, everyone is very, it's almost like my friend type of thing. Oh, I've got somebody who can come, and they introduce you and they introduce like the person's name. So it's really not like that here, but it does exist. I wouldn't say it doesn't exist. There are Afro-Mexicans, and they're absolutely embracing being African descendant. So often enough, I laugh only because in the States, we tend to identify people as Black based on a very specific set of features, right? And then you come here to Mexico and they're identifying it actually a little differently. So for them, if their hair is a little curly they've got a little bit of brown, and sometimes not even a little bit of brown, they're going to tell you they're an Afro-descendant. They're going to tell you they're an Afro-Mexican. And you're from the States and you're looking at them and you're like,
huh, really?
but I respect, you want to be, I respect what you call yourself. I respect that you're embracing that. So I no longer, especially here, make assumptions about how people are identifying themselves, because the range of what's Black for them is a much wider range than what we would traditionally consider, Black in the United States. And they would actually be offended if we were to suggest that they were not.
Yeah. I want to touch on this morning. You mentioned shared accommodations, which was a big thing for our group, because a lot are living on Social Security, or plan, or they're planning ahead, and they've already found out how much they'll be getting when they retire. And some people just don't want to live alone because we are aging, and we start out living alone, but end up where we want someone to know our goings and comings. And you mentioned something this morning out that was totally intriguing.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in, especially like particularly if I was alone, and I would say 60 plus, I would definitely want to put together a group of 5 to 10 people where we would go and rent houses probably 2 months at a time, different cities, to look at what city works and resonates for everyone. And then ultimately, I would probably be willing to invest 10 to 20,000 to buy a shared house and probably build it, because you can actually build it for that, where everyone has their own space. But I mean, you treat it like, a shared house, where once it's bought outright, I'll tell you about taxes here. So on a $200,000 property, your taxes are about $200 a year, your property taxes.
Wow.
So you're laughing as you're paying that. So everybody throws about $10, $20 a year, they'll be fine, right? But then if you add to that, everyone pays, let's say $100 a month into having a live-in person who drives everyone around to the different places that you're not necessarily going to walk to, someone who's there in the middle of the night in case someone needs something and needs to get to a hospital or something along those lines. That's really what I would do. I would probably put together a group to do that, because it can honestly just make sense.
It does make sense. Even and I like living alone, but that's now. I mean, I don't have any health issues and things like that, and so. But I would like living close to someone familiar, in the neighborhood or whatever. So I mean, that's the whole thing, establishing community, because in this group, there were people living in the same area that didn't even know. There was another Black expat that was moving in or had already been there and could show them the area. And so, in terms of Black American expats, are they there in Oaxaca, and what age group? Did you cover that when you said it was they're there?
Yeah, it's like everything. So we are, like I said, we're an interesting mix, I think, because we have Black American expats, and then we have African, expats, and then we have Caribbean expats, here. So we actually run the gambit when it comes to the type of expat. And I do think that, to your point, there is something particular that Black American expats need that's a little bit different from the others.
Yeah.
Because the others, I'm a first generation American, right? So my parents came to the United States, and the idea was to make a better life for your kids and, all of that. And, I feel like they've succeeded in their goal. But I don't, I've never felt, because I guess I was a foreigner in the United States, being the child of foreigners.
Yes.
It was never something for me where I was so tied that leaving it wasn't emotional.
Okay.
The same way my parents were like, oh, we're looking for a place for a better life for you, is the same way I said, I'm looking for a better place for a better life for my son.
Yeah. And that's totally different from us. We've been tied to the U.S. generations.
Yes.
And while many of us have traveled, it's our first time, for most of us, it's our first time considering living abroad. And that's why we're pretty cautious about the climate, the medical care, the cost. So are there Airbnbs in the area? Are there a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
rentals in the area?
Oh
And what
man.
price range would be? And I know everybody has their own particular taste, but what would be like the average, a nice neighborhood, a 2 bedroom, 2 bath with
So
the,
again, just so depends on the where, right? Because you can
yeah,
be in, you can be in Central, and depending on where in Central, you can have a 2 bedroom, so I'm actually moving from one place to another because I'm moving closer to where we bought the house, right?
okay,
Where I am now in the north, I have a three bedroom, 3 bath for 800.
okay,
But I have a little Teresa, and I live in a gated community. There's a guard at the
yes,
gate,
yes,
and all the restaurants and all the fun things, around
hmm,
me.
great,
Where I'm moving in Central, it's a 2 bedroom, 1 bath, and it's definitely smaller than here, but it's also a lot more. It's more modern, like by far.
okay,
So I didn't
okay,
choose that. I just happened to see it, and I was like, oh, this is really nice.
okay.
So they've got all the granite and blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. And it's the same thing with the security. So I'm behind
Uh-huh.
the gate. I've got a parking spot, cameras all over the place. Teresa, the property manager, is on site. So there is someone in an office literally next to my apartment every single day, Monday through Saturday. And then I have a cafe that's actually, I can actually go through my space. I don't even have to go outside, and I can go to the cafe.
Wow.
So that one is 500 a month.
Okay.
And these are all furnished, utilities and everything included.
Wow.
So
Wi-Fi included?
Wi-Fi included, yes. Wi-Fi
How is
included.
the Wi-Fi there?
So here it's pretty good. I usually, because I work online, so I will just get my own Wi-Fi too. So we have two Wi-Fis in this house. My husband uses one and I use the other.
Mhm.
So you can get it just really easily. I mean, you can always, if it's not good enough, you can ask the landlord to, get the higher level, and then you just pay the difference. So
Okay.
yeah, but it's not bad. Like every cafe has Wi-Fi. I'll go to some cafes that are like, hole in the wall, or,
Mhm.
they're not even taking credit cards, it's
But they
cash.
have Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm always like, wow, I'm gonna go credit card. No, Wi-Fi. Oh yeah. I'm like, really? Okay. So you can have the machine, you just don't want it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's easy around the city to get it. Same thing though, as you start getting toward the outskirts, as with anywhere, you're always gonna find it to be a little bit less. And there's Airbnbs all over the place, So
Right.
I would say, again, before relocating, that's why I'm such a big fan of, you really have to check the place out first, see
Yes.
how it
Yes.
speaks to you, how you are. There are little things that'll, put you in a weird space, as I will say. Where I am now, it's a great location. I can't even knock it. I go everywhere. I can go to Xochimilco. I mean, I'm in a place, it's called La Cascada. So basically, I'm at the center of like all the different kind of neighborhoods.
Right.
But I do a lot of work for the house. I mean, I gotta go, and when it's time to take a shower, I've got to go and turn on the boiler thing to a specific number, and then when I leave, I got to turn it off, and then the water when it comes in, and then I have to be here for the gas. I have to be here for the water. So I have to be home almost like I'm a property manager.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Yeah,
because it's an older building.
it's not. It's just there's no way to tell. Like you might see, the other thing about Mexico, totally different from the States. There's no such thing as keeping up with the Joneses on the outside of your house. You'll see the most decrepit looking outside, and you're walking down the streets broken up, and you're thinking, I don't even know if I should be here. And then they open the gates, and you're like, what? You don't even know how could this be, right? There's a courtyard, and there's all these flowers and trees and fruit trees, and you're like, okay, yeah, I see you. So you'll have people who do the outside of their place really nice. Right next door will be something that's completely broken down, and no one feels anything. Like no one feels like, oh man, their house is nice. No, it rolls right off their back. It doesn't mean a thing. They're not keeping up with the Joneses. So you have to actually go to the different spaces
And
to actually see them for yourself, because in every neighborhood, there are going to be places that are completely ridiculous. And then there'll be gems. I have someone I had a meeting with today. He lives in Oaxaca, like back and forth. He lives in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, further south toward the airport, and he pays 4,550, so 225 is what he pays.
Wow.
For his. Now his was unfurnished.
Okay.
So and he signed a longer lease. The longer you're willing to sign the lease, the more they're willing to negotiate with you.
Yes.
And he does live. Yeah, and where he lives, they don't have taxis, they have motos. So it's definitely a little further out. So motos are like these, it's like the Flintstones car. So you basically you jump in and you tick, 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 and then they take you down the hill.
They have Ubers or mass transportation?
Yeah. Oh no, I DD all the time. So they have Uber here, but I use DD. All the time. I mean, I just, it's like on my go-to. And then I have the taxis numbers. So I have 3 different taxis numbers that I'll call, or I'll call a DD. And then there's always a taxi on the street. So if you don't feel like calling anyone, you just go stand there. Like I only call at night, or if I'm home and I, need someone to pick me up at a specific time. But otherwise I'll just go out and I'll just wait for because they're always passing by. So you literally throw up your hand. Taxi
and they're not expensive.
No, I pay on average, 50 to 60 pesos for a ride. So $2.50 to $3 for, a ride into the city. So it'd probably take me, I would say if I walked it, if I tried to go to Central right now, it'd take me 25 minutes from here. If I was going to Zocalo, and it cost me 60 pesos.
Okay. So that's like $3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the taxi is like, abundant, and they love to look for you. I mean, I had a suitcase because I'm moving. So it's my suitcase. Everybody's beeping me. And I was like, no, I'm walking. It was fair because it looked like I was going to the airport. So they all wanted to pick me up, so it's a different situation. Here, they're like looking to see about picking you up. And you can stand on a corner and yell out taxi, and you'll just have people just stopping and taking you. So it's really, the taxi is, it's inexpensive, but it's starting to get a lot of traffic, which is why I kind of prefer being closer to where I can just walk. I don't have to take the taxi. I take it if I'm, depending on the mood that I'm in.
Okay. Is there a tourist season there? And what are the attractions? Well,
yes.
You said it's a very artsy place. How far from the water are you?
No, we are pretty
beaches.
Yeah, so we're kind of far. Right now, it's a 5 to 6 hour drive to Huatulco or 7 to Puerto Escondido. And it's like a windy road on the mountain.
Okay.
So they're building a road.
Oh, okay.
It's in Mexico, though, they've been promising this road for a little bit. It's like 70% done. The president claims it's going to be finished by next March, and it's going to take you 2 hours at that point. It will be a straight road. When they do that, Oaxaca will start knowing his name because it'll, Huatulco is a beautiful beach. Yeah, and Puerto is also a great beach, but because it's harder to get to, it's not overrun with tourists like some of the other beaches. So it's still one of their pure beaches.
Okay, are there waterfalls?
There's Herve de Agua, which is a really famous waterfall. The villagers are fighting right now, so I'm assuming they're going to stop fighting soon because they need the money to come in. So they've shut down going in. So it's more like caves and archaeological, things like ruins. So we're about 10 minutes from Montalban, and it's one of the oldest cities, in Mexico. It's very inexpensive. It's like $2 to get in.
Okay.
So it's really nice. Like it's a place where, like, the last time I went, I was like, I'm going to come back here and just bring a book and read. And you just sit at the top of the whole city, and you could see like the old city and how it used to be. So it's really nice. So tourists actually come to Oaxaca all the time because, like you said, it's cultural. So this is where the weavers are, the mezcal. This is the mezcal production capital. So the farms will let you come on and they'll show you how they do mezcal, because mezcal is done the same way they've been doing it for 500 years. It's a donkey. that's pulling the thing, and they show you all of the tubes and everything. So there's always something cultural going on. The major tourist seasons, and that's just regular tourists, like all the time. So there's tours every single day. I got this on one of my tours, which I love. So this
Wow,
is
that's beautiful.
hand painted. So they walked us through the process, literally from getting the wood from the tree. So there's one guy who just has a vision. He gets the piece of wood and he just starts cutting. Then there's the other person who will start the buffering. Then there's a third set of people who will, and we watched them do this. Literally every single stroke on here is done. Yeah, I'll put it closer for you. Can I see here? Every stroke is done by hand with a little paintbrush. And if they mess up, they have to like restart. So it's a whole big, to-do process.
Oh, wow.
No, it's a big to-do, and so they'll spend 6 months working on a particular thing. So, and that's going on like all the time. And then in the city, they have, I can't wait to crash my first wedding. I'm so excited. So they have weddings all the time at the church. And then they come out and then the wedding gets to go, is on the street. So then you can join the wedding parade and throw rice at the bride and stuff. So I'm really excited. I can't wait till they start having weddings again because I will definitely be joining some. So they do that daily. Their two major events are Dia de Muerto. And I would say that these are Mexican. So it's like a big thing for Mexicans to come and make a pilgrimage to Oaxaca for these two events. So the Day of the Dead, which is October 31st.
I'm glad you mentioned that because there was a question. Could you talk about that? And it happens October, November?
It's October 31st. So for the week before October 31st through the week after, because it's kind of like a whole, thing. The Day of the Dead is on the 31st itself. So you do all of these pilgrimages. And so you'll actually walk by people's places. So it was muted this year because of COVID. But people still did their murals for all of their relatives. And then on November 1st, they actually go to all the different, what do they call them? Where people's graves are. I can't even remember. Cemeteries. Yeah, cemeteries. Yeah, so they go to the cemetery. So they're like all these big events in the cemeteries, and it's like families, and it's like a party. And the people go to the different cemeteries, and they basically, talk to their ancestors, and it just goes on. So the whole city is basically involved in the whole Day of the Dead festivals, and it's a big thing for Mexicans. And then the other one is Galaguetza, which happens in July. It's another really big thing. So Mexicans from all over Mexico come down for that. That is I can't remember if it's the second or third week of July, but it's a big deal. I don't think I have my thing here. So basically it's just a party that just goes on throughout the entire city. Villagers come down from all the different villages in Oaxaca, and they've been preparing dances for this all year. Oh, wow. So there is a hall here that's called the Galaguetza. And in that hall, and it's a huge stadium, they have all the villages, all the dances on the street. And you walk around with this little wood thing, which I don't have here in front of me. And what people will do is they'll basically just pour mezcal into your it's like a little wooden thing. And that's just it's like a, hey, how you doing? Pour the mezcal, let's take a drink. And then there's a whole thing they do with the mezcal. So I don't remember 100%, but you put it up. So it's arriba, abajo, central, and you swish it. And there's a last saying that I can't remember for the life of me. And then you take it in. So basically the idea is mezcal is good when you're happy. Mezcal is good when you're sad. Mezcal is good when you're healthy. Mezcal is good when you're sick.
When you're sick, is better.
Mezcal, yes. And then you always the mezcal. So that goes on during that time. And that's when it gets more expensive, like all the Airbnbs and everything, because there's so many people that come down all over Mexico for that. That ends up being the most expensive time to visit. So if you're going to visit and you're thinking about a couple of months, I would say try to get something from like a September and then lock it up through the second or third week of November. And then from November through December. And I'll actually have something that I'll share with your group as well. Because I told you I created the Oaxaca Living Guide, and I have a calendar of all the events in Oaxaca. So from November through December, same thing, daily, dances. So basically you go down to Zocalo, which is like, the center of the center. And sometimes I just go down there, like you don't have to have a plan, right? Somebody's always has some event, some music, whatever it is.
So
You go
there's
to
always something to do.
yeah. And you just sit there. Like I do sometimes on Friday nights. So we just go and we sit at the restaurant on the top terraza and you just watch down. And the guys are either playing, the music and people are joining in the dancing. It's just kind of an all the time type of thing. And, so if you feel like being around people, there's people.
There's always the opportunity for that. Yeah.
Yes.
Never
Always.
90 degrees in Florida. Yeah, I feel you. I feel your pain. It's hot and sticky here in Dallas. It's been rainy and hot, and I know it's going to get hotter. So I want to be traveling by the time that happens.
So it's like 70. I think today was a 72, maybe.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Today was like 72 and sunny, so it was actually good. Yeah.
Good. And I like that. I saw in your group somebody is hosting Spanish classes. Would you say we need to learn some Spanish to survive in that particular area? Because
I definitely, yeah. Oaxaca's not
being fluent.
Yeah. It's not a touristy. It's not an English touristy place at all.
Okay.
So it's like a Mexican tourist come here.
Oh, okay.
So the thing is, they're very nice about it. They are very like they'll be everybody will be your teacher. So you'll be like, how do you say this?
Like the French.
No. They're very, everywhere I go. I mean, I have a whole little speech prepared. Practicar mi español. So, por favor, I got my whole little thing going, and then I'm like, ¿cómo se dice? And then I tell them repetir, por favor, despacio, verdad. So I always tell them slow down, please repeat. What does this mean? How do you say this? And they all give it. So no one ever acts like, what's your problem or anything like that. They're
like we do in America. I feel so bad after, planning to become an expat. All the times I'd be thinking I wouldn't say it. Speak English. You're in America. I'm like, oh my God.
No, I mean, they don't. Somebody did that to me in Panama one time. I had to laugh because she was, because I was at the supermarket and she asked me something about, do I want to get a card or something? I just really didn't understand what she was asking me. And she gave me that look like these foreigners coming out here can't even speak the language. And I just had to laugh because I was like, I'm not even going to knock you because I know that this is going on all the time in America. So it's fine. Yeah, but they don't do that here at all. It's very, you take out your Google Translate and they're good, and they'll stop. They won't run you out or make you feel like, hurry it up or anything like that. So, but you really should
at least make an attempt. Yeah.
Because you're not going to see, and again, it kind of depends a little bit on where you are. Mm-hmm. If you're in San Felipe, there are a lot of expats in San Felipe, right? Like a lot. Not black expats. They're mostly white expats or Europeans or that kind of thing. Canadians. And so they own a decent amount of the stores and things there. Mm-hmm. So they will be more English spoken if you go around the San Felipe, but otherwise, you definitely want to you need to know the language of the restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you have any like requirements, like, I don't eat meat, right? So I always have to say, and they have all kinds of names for the pig out here. I've never seen so many names for the pig. I mean, it's chicharron, it's tocina, every iteration. Now I've gotten to the point where
you have to be really careful that you're not eating.
Yeah, no, it's tough. If I don't recognize it, I think to myself, that's probably some kind of pig right there. And sure enough, every part, even if they make it a little different, they'll call it something totally different. It'll be the same part of the pig. Yeah. But because they fried it instead of boiled it, they call it something else. So now I'm just like, is this any kind of meat? So I have to have my language down pat to have that conversation, with them. Mm-hmm. And of course, taxi. That's why I like to do Didi. Didi tells them where you're going already. So you don't have to go to the beach. Didi is like Uber. It's the same. It's Didi.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So it already tells them where you're going. So you don't really have to talk much because it already says. So there's not a lot of chatter that needs to happen there. But you should they appreciate that you're making the effort. So no one will ever look at you funny for your accent or anything like that. From time to time, they will. So they're very particular about their R's, like rolling the R's. And like I'll tell someone, oh, I live at Rincon de Aqueducto. And they're like, what? Okay, Monday? I mean, they give me all this stuff. And then I'm like, Rincon de Aqueducto. And they're like, oh, yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm like, that's not serious. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's not that different.
No, you caught it. You knew what I was saying. Yeah.
We're going with this.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about living someplace.
We've gone over an hour, and I really appreciate all the information. And they asked the question if we were answering. Yes, we're answering questions. I don't see any questions.
Oh, so I don't see any either. Yeah.
I mean,
I think they were in comments.
Yeah, they're in comments, and so I'm reading them.
I wasn't looking at comments. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I've been looking at the comments when I look away, and so you answered the question about the celebration. Okay. Well, Brazil calls celebration of the good dead, but it's basically the same thing. And in Mexico. So if you have a question, go ahead and answer, because we've covered tours. They do they do tours? Are there any Black tour groups?
What's that mean?
Like a tour group, like if someone wanted to come and formally be part of a tour guide that was going to take them to different places in Oaxaca to show them the sights of Oaxaca.
Oh no, yeah. Okay. I mean, there's tours. I mean, although you can't go to Zocalo without somebody asking you to take you on a tour. I mean, if you want a tour, that's like all day. Yeah. So tours are a thing. How's Oaxaca different from Merida? So I haven't been to Merida, so I can only speak to you from people I know who've relocated from Merida to Oaxaca. So typically the reason people leave Merida is one, the heat. The heat is a serious thing. I see the jokes about, they wake up and they're on fire, so the heat is what tends to drive people. And Oaxaca is one of the more, like I said, because it's so cultural in the villages, like even the fruits and everything are coming from the villages. The people, it's like small villagers doing their fruit and then they bring them down to sell. So you don't have, fruit from other places and all of that. Everything is very, very local. Merida, I understand, is cheaper than Oaxaca. So I will say that I've definitely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely.
So I've heard different. Okay.
Well, yeah, because I think
maybe it's because the heat.
Yeah, so the heat, the heat, and it is built. What about what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Ahihi.
What about? Oh, ahihi. Oh, I actually don't know ahihi at all. Ahihi, I've not even heard of ahihi.
Okay.
So I apologize, I've got nothing.
Okay.
You have something, let me know.
Okay.
So Deborah, where are you living, Deborah?
Okay. I'm in Dallas, Texas. I'm trying to get out of Texas.
That's okay. Nothing to worry about. My son's name is Dallas. It's a good name.
Yes, and I love it. It's my home, but I did a lot of traveling in my career and stuff, and I was like, I want to live abroad. There's no reason for me not to at this point. So I'm one of those that are investigating all the different places and want to spend time. And I love the idea of a group of us getting together and exploring different areas and coming back and seeing, the pros and cons of each. And so I'm actually going to do an event because there are about 8 in the group that live in the Dallas area. So we're going to be getting together soon. And I always encourage people to look at who in the group is in your area, because you can do a search and just find out who's in your community. And they've been very good about that. And so I'm always looking to people like you to come in and tell us about an area where there aren't that many of us, because we do have people in Merida, we have people in Panama and Costa Rica. We have one person that's been to Rwanda, and I'm interested in that. I mean, I'm interested in all places right now, but in starting, I know I want to start out in Mexico, someplace close where I can go and spend a couple of months and then go on to the next place.
And definitely get a sense of sometimes, like I said, I've been in a few different countries at this point, a few different cities. Sometimes it's literally the feel, you step in and you're just like, oh, okay, you're my space.
Yeah.
I think Francine had a question about groups to get into if you want to move there, but alone. If you mean Facebook groups, then there are two that we have. We started, I almost want to tell you reluctantly, only because people kept saying, are there anybody in Oaxaca? So we we're like, oh, we should throw ourselves up there.
Yes.
We're so like, the thing is none of us we're not selling anything or, and even though I should caveat that, because, I mentioned to you, I bought the place and the space that I bought and I'm renovating is actually going to be a co-living space. So, but short term. So specifically for people who are looking and considering Oaxaca, I'm building 4 apartments and full apartments, but same thing, centrally located for people who are like either they're not sure about Oaxaca just yet, so they can stay for a few months to see, or they know about Oaxaca, but you know me, I don't believe you should sign anything sight unseen. I don't care where it is, so a place that you can come to for a month, visit the different neighborhoods, get a feel, then decide where you want to stay. So kind of that starting point. So not selling you because it doesn't even exist yet, just letting you know it's an FYI for the future. But if you're talking about groups, when you come here, so I say like Oaxaca's that place where if you say to yourself, I want to integrate into what's happening here, that's easy. I mean, there are so many, I told you I'm going to church next week. Hopefully I don't get struck down by lightning. It's been a while.
Yeah, these are for grandma to say, girl, why haven't you been to church?
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a while, but it's so beautiful. The church is so beautiful. I was like, oh, I gotta go just to, so it's obviously it's gonna be in Spanish, but I was raised a Catholic and they all no, the same exact way anyway. So I'm sure I can just mumble along and it's the same intonation. So we're going, But I would definitely say for Oaxaca, you want to, even like I tell you, my father is going to come down. And I've already found places for him to volunteer, because I know him. He's somebody who likes to volunteer. He'll do a couple of tours, that kind of thing. But for him, it's going to be simple. If I got volunteering for him in the morning, some mole and bread in the afternoon, he's good, and he watches the sunset. I mean, life is going to be great. And he's going to be like, Oaxaca is my place. So you just have to kind of know what your thing is. If you want to get into something, there are so many groups, so many volunteering. They have the Oaxaca Lending Library, which is a starting point for a lot of expats. And it is what it sounds like. So it is literally a lending library. Plus they do a lot of activities there and workshops and things like that. And those are actually all older expats. So the Oaxaca Lending Library is kind of that meeting point. And then you have just, like I said, like if I was moving and I wasn't going to get struck by lightning and stuff, like I would probably just go to church because they're very, they're very into.
They would be able to give you a lot of advice.
Yes, that they will. So on the airport, so the thing about Oaxaca, and that's why we're still a secret, is the airport is Oaxaca, OAX. They call it an international airport. I don't know why. You have an hour, you're okay. You don't feel like you're not going to make it. It's one flight coming in and out, but you always have to pass through Mexico City to get here, so you said you're in Dallas. I know there's a flight to Texas, a direct flight, and I can't remember if it's Dallas or someplace else. And I'm almost positive it's Dallas. So Dallas
I think so.
I think Dallas is the only city that there's a direct flight from Oaxaca. Everything else, you're going to have to you're going to have to go through Mexico City and then connect. With respect to Sonia, your question about the Black population, if you're talking about an expat Black population, the answer is no. There's definitely not. I mean, we are the smallest, I'm sure. Maybe not I mean, I know there's some places where there's kind of one or two, but we are definitely very small. Oaxaca has a large actually Black population. When I say actually, I mean like Mexican Black population.
Yeah, Afro-Mexican.
Afro-Mexican. So there is a group of Afro-Mexicans that, were brought obviously to the New World, if you will. And they look like us. And they're not Afro-Mexican in the sense that, we might give them the side eye, but like really like you look at them and you say, these people for sure, came directly and probably didn't intermix too much with people. Because they look, they're Afro-Mexican. But in terms of a large Black population, not at all. I mean, we're many. We see each other on the street. We're very excited. We take pictures with each other. I saw my sister the other day who did the hair across the street. We're hugging, and other people are looking. So it sort of looked like we knew each other.
They would think you saw no friend, right?
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, how are you? And so I'm sure on the outside it was like, oh yeah, they know each other. No. It was, she was excited, I was excited. And, we were just taking pictures, with each other. And she's been in Oaxaca 5 years. And I've never seen her the whole time I was here.
Wow. See, that's what I got. That's why you created the Oaxaca family.
Because we're here, because it's big and spread out. You can absolutely live, and your neighborhood is so self-contained, right? You have your Mercado and you have your this and that. In a 5-block radius is the woman who, sews my clothes, the person who does the shoe things for me. I don't have to even leave my 5-block radius. I just do. And so I happen to go and see other people. But everything I need is right here. And then if I felt like going to the movies, I would take a trip. So I could easily not see anybody. I have to be purposeful about seeing others because there are just so many little restaurants. There's no one hanging one place. Every time you go down, another restaurant popped up. It's got this beautiful music coming through. You're like, oh man, I got to go in, and then you end up. So what brought us to Oaxaca? So we didn't even do that part. So you didn't miss anything, Sonia. Oaxaca was a happy accident. We had been, like I mentioned, my husband, myself. So I have 3 kids, 25, 20, and 7. And we had been traveling with the 2 youngest ones in different countries since 2012. But I needed to send my second son to college, so we came back to the States, and the plan was to be there for 1 year only to do the college stuff. Then COVID happened. So at first I was like a denier. I was like, 2 weeks, it'll be fine. They can't keep Americans locked down for more than a week, And then obviously I was wrong. So we were supposed to leave in April to go to Medellin, Colombia, because we were going to actually go back there and just settle there, a little bit in the outskirts because I didn't want to deal with too much of the crime things. And then Colombia shut down its borders. So we're in South Carolina, Greenville, which is actually a very nice place. Greenville, South Carolina. If you ever have to go any place in the States, highly recommended. So we're there, and it's April, it's May. June comes around, and I'm like, okay, I don't see the end in sight, but I cannot stay in America. What happens when you've been traveling for some time is you do forget the feeling. You forget you don't wake up every morning and remember that you're Black or have to say something about it or whatever. You're just a person, you're just a human being, and you forget what it's like to be back in that environment. You forget what it's like to be in a place where people are angry because you just haven't been around that for some time. So, and it's like I call it like the stages. At first you go back to the States for a little while. It doesn't affect you because you've been you're just out of that mindset. But then there's that tipping point where you start to get angry again, where you start to look at everything through the lens of race again. And that's the point where I found myself, where I was starting to mentally get back into that place where, I'm talking to someone, of a different race, and I'm having 3 conversations, right? I'm having the conversation as a person, as a Black person, as a woman. It's like mentally exhausting. And I realized I was doing that again. And there was no way I was going to put myself back into that mental trauma. So for me, it was who is taking us? Because we got to get out of here. So I didn't care what border was open. I was talking to my husband, I get in the car and driving. Like I was like, we have to drive over the border, whatever. We cannot be here mentally and still feel, like when I say still feel good, yeah, like you want to wake up in the morning and you want to do things for people because you just want to do it for them, right? You just want to be a good person. And you don't want to look at everybody all the time and constantly think to yourself, oh, you've got this ulterior motive. It's like you shouldn't have to live that world. And particularly for my 7-year-old right now, which is the biggest blessing, he's a kid. He has no idea about anything related to race, any of that. He believes truthfully everybody loves him. Like that's the world he lives in. He wakes up in the morning and he is like, I am universally loved. And the concept that he's not universally loved would be completely shocking to him. He has no concept that anybody would see him as anything other than a kid. And I needed to maintain that for him. And that was becoming increasingly possible in the States. So Mexico was open. They were like, Benvenido. So we were like, let's go. And we just bought the plane tickets and we just left. And we at first wanted to go to a beach. So that's why we went to Puerto. And then, like I said, when someplace speaks to you, we were in Puerto 2 months. The heat was too intense. We couldn't work. It was just too much. So we came to Oaxaca with no intention of staying. I mean, it was just, somebody said, Oaxaca. We were like, Wahoo, spell it, please. And then I was like, what's the flight? And we
I don't feel bad.
No, really. I had no idea. I kept looking it up. I'm looking up W's and I'm like, I don't get it. I can't find this place. You said Oaxaca and I've put this in several different ways. Why is this not working? So I had to get someone to spell it. We showed up and within 3 days, I realized that's our Wakanda. That's what we call ourselves. I realized I was home. It was the feel of a place when it speaks to you. And that's what it does. Oaxaca just spoke to us and that was it. So we decided we're going to stay. And after, I guess, 8 years of the different places and checking off the boxes, that was it. So it was an accident, but the best accident in the world, because I was definitely ready to compromise on the safety part. Because Medellin is actually very much like Oaxaca. It's in the mountains, same kind of weather. That's why they call it the city of eternal spring. Beautiful city. They take, so one thing I got to give Medellin over Oaxaca and just Mexico in general, they actually take care of the streets out there. So the sidewalks are straight. Here, just imagine you're on a boat on land. That's how you have to walk because the sidewalks are like up and down, up and down. So you've got to learn to high step it or you will find yourself, I hit the ground a couple times.
Oh, wow.
Oh no, real, you got to focus. None of this, I'm looking at my phone. No. You have to look where you're walking.
Yeah, see, that's a consideration for seniors. Yeah.
It is.
Walking in unlevel places.
Yeah. So the closer you are to Central, it's pretty level. The more you start getting out to the other areas, it definitely, so I almost feel like I walk now with a little, I'm on a boat type of thing. Cause it's just not a straight walk. So that was what, that's what Medellin actually had over Oaxaca. But then, like I said, the culture part was really, really, I respect people who they know people are saying things, I'm saying about them, and they didn't let go of who they are. That spoke volumes to me. And I was like, that's the kind of place that I want my son to grow up in, where the people love themselves, irrespective of what someone else might be saying. So now they're the flavor of the day, right? Because they are one of the last places in Mexico that has held on to so much of their culture. So now the rest of Mexico is coming and they're like, oh, Oaxaca, it's so cultural. We've lost our culture. That's because they let go of it and Oaxaca held on to it. And that's why they're reaping the benefits now. I don't know what that means. What does Dove jobs look like? What is Dove?
I think she meant do. What is job mark?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I was thinking Dev. I was like, I don't know. So they don't look like anything. They are a zero, and that is probably going across Mexico.
Yes.
So I say this loosely because the business market is good, right? So it's two totally different things. If you want someone to employ you, I don't want to say don't waste your time, but really don't put the time and effort. If you are going to start a business, then that is wide open. They are, me and autocorrect aren't friends either. They're, starting a business is not terribly complex. And there are certain things here that they simply don't have. So I mentioned to you the place that we're renovating. Part of it is going to be a Caribbean restaurant, right? There's probably 3 Caribbeans here, me, my husband, and Tiffany. Okay. So we know each other.
Population.
That's right. And Tiffany, bless her soul, is a chef. So, I'm trying to get her to do the recipes for me. Great. So they don't have any, and, I desperately need a, Jamaican vegetable patty. I'm like, oh, it's been 10 months. I haven't had it. So, and Oaxaca is like the food capital of Mexico, so it fits, right? It's still another different type of food that people can experience. It's not like at least right now, there's not an influx of Caribbeans here, so there's honestly no competition. So they can't even tell me if it's bad or good because they have nothing to compare it to, right? There are people here. There are a few people actually I know who are buying houses and doing Airbnb, because again, Oaxaca's becoming increasingly popular with tourists. And once they finish that road to the beach, it's just going to be unbelievable, like the tourism, because that's people's problem, that they can't get to the beach quickly. So once that deterrent is off, then you're going to see everything rise in Oaxaca, including prices. So I'm watching a lot of people right now buy property, like a lot. I mean, I'm part of property groups where we're all talking to each other about construction costs and things like that. And that's a huge, huge market here. So if you're talking business, there's definitely business opportunity. But I will say too that, at the risk of offending some of my brothers and sisters who are doing some of the virtual businesses, if you're thinking about getting into the, I don't know, the YouTube kind of world of where I'm going to make my money is by sharing my experience with YouTube. The problem with that is when you first start someplace, you can't own property as a foreigner. I am a foreigner. They don't even care if you're a resident, and a certain amount of money for the property. So I think it's 188,000. They will give you permanent residency based on the cost of the property.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah.
Okay, that was a question, because I know in Panama, they have the pensionado visa,
Yes.
and the seniors get all kinds of privileges and stuff like that, but they can't work there.
That's correct.
You can make your wares and you can sell them. You can sell anything, but and that's in most developing countries. They don't want any foreigners coming in taking a job that one of their citizens could have, because that's why they're trying to get to America to work. So, but
food trucks are big out here. They love that. Like food trucks, things on the street. Like people eat off the street here.
And crab, things like that.
All the time, yeah. There's nothing but when you walk up and down. When I go to El Llano, I mean, people are popping up. I'm not even sure they have permits, because they just because it's like I see people
like selling stuff that day.
Yeah, so when she's foreign, I know she's only been here 2 months, and she's like, "Oh, I'm selling Argentinian things at the park," and I'm like, "Wow, I know you got it 2 months ago." And maybe I'm not saying she doesn't have her papers. I'm saying nobody really asks you, and that's kind of the difference I would say between Merida and the other places too, because there aren't a lot of us there. No one ever stops you and asks you for your papers, or like I hear about that sometimes where they're checking to make sure people haven't overstayed or what have you. That doesn't happen in Oaxaca at all. Probably one, because of their relationship with the police. The police are very outskirts type of periphery people. I mean, maybe they're policing. I've not seen it. I mean, I see them, but there's not really, like, something has not happened.
Yeah.
So they don't stop you. You can partner with a local person to develop property, but same thing, you don't actually have to. You can buy the property yourself. There are a lot of foreigners right now they're buying property and they're buying land, and they're just building and developing it. It's not, like I didn't have to do anything. I'm even still on a visitor's visa. That doesn't prevent me from purchasing the property. So they'll take your money,
Wow, like that's rare. They're on a visitor's visa. You could buy property.
Yes, but but you do need to have the money. Like you need to have. You're not going to get a mortgage.
No.
And even if you did here, the mortgages are like hard money lending. It's like 5 years and it's ridiculous interest rates. You're better off if you have a house in the States, getting a home equity line of credit on your house and buying the property outright here, than thinking about getting a property, getting like a mortgage here, because the interest rate would be so ridiculous that it's not worth that interest rate and the money, So I don't remember how much it is for the pension, how much you need to have. I do know if you're coming in and you have a stream of income, And again, that's another word I'll use loosely because I can explain that to you in a second. I think for a single person, depending on the embassy, it's about $2,000 a month.
Okay.
Now, what they ask for specifically is an employment letter from your employer and bank statements that prove you've been getting the specific amount of money per month and just your pay stub. They do not ask you who your employer is nor who they care. So if you have a corporation, which you can easily set up, you can pay yourself as an employee for 6 months, $2,000, and that 100% counts, and that will give you access to the residency. So people who are self-employed, or if your pension is, because I think what they want for the pension is a little bit higher, you could actually set up a corporation and just start basically use the money. You just pay yourself, and you just come in off of the different visa.
Yeah, yeah, and you can find that online because I know in Panama for the pensionata visa, it's $1,000 a month. When you get that visa.
Okay.
And it has to be, and also a lot of people just use their Social Security.
Yes.
And it has to be documented a certain way that this is a lifetime income.
Exactly. That is exactly right. So yeah, that's Mexico. That's Oaxaca. So the takeaways, there's not a lot of us. We're looking at it.
So it's beautiful weather, friendly people.
Yes.
Can buy property inexpensive in relation to the U.S. And because you said your 3-bedroom, 3-bath where you are now is $800 a month, and that includes everything,
furnished,
including Wi-Fi, and it's
Wi-Fi.
Wow.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. And monthly is $2,000 a month for 6 months. That's what they want to see. Okay. $2,000 a month for 6 months, and they'll do that. Some people truthfully just come back and forth. I mean, you can go to Tijuana, cross the border, have a cup of coffee, cross the border back, and they renew your visa. So
yeah, is it 180 days, the 6 months?
Yeah, it's 180 days. Yeah,
that's for the visitor's visa. So yeah, you leave one time and they start it over. You come back the next day, start over again. So you don't even have to get the
No. So if you're not sure, you don't want to go through all that paperwork, because if you're not sure, it may not be a great reason to do it. You have time. There's no pressure. So just, I would say plan your flight for the 5-month mark, so there's no fun, nothing funny happening. Mm-hmm. And that's it. You just, you go and either you do the Tijuana, the cup of coffee, or you plan on doing a couple of days to see family or whatever in the States, and then you come back.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I think this went really well. We had some good questions, and
thank you for having me.
Recorded so people can watch.
Okay.
Those who missed the beginning can go back and watch it. And like I told them, you were a wealth of knowledge.
And I'll send you the book, because the book is, the book is really helpful to kind of get a sense of what's in.
Oh yes, you're going to send us that. So it'll be, I'll put that, guys, in the guide section. That'll be one of our resource tours.
Yes. So I've separated it out, and I have a table of contents so you can look up the stuff, but I've separated out by location as well. Okay. So it'll be like dentist in El Centro, so you can definitely see the different neighborhoods and kind of what's there and inside the stores. So
that's great.
Maybe a good starting point.
Okay, guys, I think we've taken enough time. I saw she turned the light on, which means it's...
No, I turned it all on. I didn't realize, well, yes, that means it's getting dark. That means don't go outside. At least not don't go, because I'm actually out all the time. More like do not walk by yourself, drinking, yes. Exactly.
Thank you so much, Suki. And thank you for tuning in. And we'll just keep learning and growing and venturing out. And so have a good evening.
Thank you. When you come visit, don't forget to say hi.
Oh, I will. I'll let you know ahead of time. Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Until next time, guys.